Zerk, because All In London has officially, uh, I would say, eclipsed a 30-year-old attendance record held by WWE. I think the attendance record in Wembley Stadium was 79,000. They've eclipsed the SummerSlam 92 record. They have eclipsed the WrestleMania 3 record, which, by the way, Hogan versus Andre the Giant. And I either think that they have met and surpassed the WrestleMania 32 record, or they're about to pass it, or they're projected to pass it, which means that by the time All In comes around, AEW would have produced the biggest wrestling event of all time. If we're just basing it off of their gate. How do we feel about this? Does this change the standing of AEW because they have the largest gate of any pro wrestling event ever?
I think a lot of eyes are going to be on the product. Because even without the card being announced, it was already 70, close to 79,000 already. So
Mm,
I think the event is going to be big for them. It's going to be big time. It's going to bring more eyes to the product. It's going to bring more eyes to the characters, um, especially since there are former WWE guys in there as well. Um, yeah, I think it's going to be big time. It's going to be a big event. Um, I think it's going to be an enjoyable event as far as like the card
mm,
as it stands now and the storylines that are going on. I think that the card is very storyline driven, and they're going in the right direction with that build, with building it in a short period of time. It's going to be interesting how they book All Out, since it's in the same week.
mm.
Um, so we'll see what happens with that as well.
Yeah, I agree with Xavier. It's going to do great for them, and I think also too this could also lead to them like having future pay per views in like other different countries. Like who knows, maybe in Japan, maybe like uh, Canada again,
Mm.
anywhere else, you know. But it's still a great thing that they did because like that's a record that's been held since the early '90s by WWE, which
Yeah.
is crazy to say, especially in this day and age. And it goes to show you that their popularity is on the rise, like very quickly too, in the world
Mm.
of pro wrestling, and also with I would say a little bit of entertainment,
Yeah,
maybe.
for sure. Again, a 30-year-old record that has been just sitting there collecting dust by WWE since the early. And for AEW to do that, it's very impressive. You know, if like people don't understand the scale of selling out like the Wembley Stadium, if people who don't know how significant that is, especially in the UK, like that is like the stadium where they host soccer finals for the FA Cup and Leagues Cup. That stadium hosts historic grounds. You know, to sell that stadium is very big, and for AEW that's a big plus. You know, more eyes to the sport generates more revenue for them, and also it kind of forces WWE to be on their p's and q's. You know, make sure they don't get caught slacking with their pants hanging down. And I don't want to. It's like I don't want to bring it back to Money in the Bank, but with AEW selling out Wembley, could fingers crossed 2025 a WrestleMania in Wembley could be on the cards. Not the O2. That's the O2 is like a big arena and all. That's something new. They generated its own history. Wembley, a WrestleMania at Wembley
Mm.
would be big. And if I want this card, I want this card to do well for AEW, so it could, you know, do a little wrestling war on who has the bigger putting up the bigger foothold on the UK audience, because everyone knows how massive the wrestling audience in Europe, in just not just the UK, in Europe in general is. I think they're more crazier about wrestling than us Americans are. So I'm really fingers crossed
Most
that
definitely.
this card goes well.
Now I don't know who WWE got to speak to in because apparently Minnesota has been rumored for WrestleMania 42. They need to speak to the Vikings, the Timberwolves, the Twins, and say sorry, we can't do it because doing Minnesota when the company you've been little broing for the past 4 years is doing Wembley
and your
is
star
actually
and your
nuts.
star wrestler
Is
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 actually trying to,
actually
convince them. It's like, hey, come on, Vince, Hunter, come on.
yeah, yeah, we need to listen. If your boy John Cena hops off a movie set to tell cats, "Hey, you need to do a WrestleMania in London," then you need to do a WrestleMania in London.
Yep.
Here's what I will say, and this is one of the reasons why I was saying I can't rank it as a primary or a secondary argument right now when it comes to AEW versus WWE. AEW breaking that record is going. I feel like is going to slightly damage the WWE brand. And here's the reason why. The reason why WWE has fought tooth and nail to take certain people out of the streaming conversation, to take certain people out of the television rights conversation, is because part of WWE's power is in their brand name. When you think of wrestling, you think of WWE. Why? Because of WrestleMania, because of Stone Cold, The Rock. Everything that is big that is wrestling related is affiliated with WWE until now. It's like you have the biggest stars and you have the biggest events. But now you can't say you've had the biggest event. AEW has had the biggest event. And that plays a very big role and a very big factor when it comes to international television media rights, when it comes to streaming rights, when it comes to events and booking. Because guess what? If London wants AEW, that means that Australia wants AEW. That means that Japan wants AEW. That means that all these different countries who all have their own big stadiums are going to want AEW. And so now, when you have all these countries that WWE is just now starting to touch and go to that want AEW, does WWE become the go to for wrestling anymore? I don't know. Maybe, perhaps, right? It's still WWE, but these are the things that make you wonder like, oh, well, there's this other wrestling company, and the guy who's the CEO there, he hasn't been accused of
Yet we
sexual
don't know.
harassment. So
We
maybe
don't know
we
what he
need
does
to
behind. We don't know
get him in our country.
exactly.
We don't know. We don't know. We don't know what that man does behind closed doors. All I'm saying is that there's no allegations. You know, he's been moving pretty ethically. He has a clean record compared to Vince, right? So these are the things that kind of make you wonder. But to eclipse the WrestleMania 32, and I remember, oh my God, WrestleMania 32. The biggest sports entertainment. This is everything's bigger in
Yeah,
Texas, and we're at the Dallas Cowboy Stadium. Like it was nuts. And the fact
it's
that
cool.
Tony was just like, oh, all right, cool. I got you on that. And he really just
Watch out,
like
top
shut
that.
right. He really just sunned them. Like, I'm gonna be very, very eager to see how WWE responds because if they do Wembley, and you're gonna turn around and do US Bank Stadium,
Yeah.
And it's in the winter too. It's
and
crazy.
it's a
Yeah,
If
exactly.
it's
if
like, bro,
this
you
year
better
has
take your
something to
cold white
say, that
Minnesota
I
head
think
ass.
there should be at least one or two major shows on international waters. If Backlash, Money in the Bank, the
Absolutely.
next AEW pay per view in Wembley, and Crown Jewel has something to say, that means it's like, hey,
Mm,
there's untapped that's untapped market that we could take advantage of. If Backlash, if we saw the
mm.
crowd in Backlash,
And
they were ruckus from Friday Night
Yesterday.
SmackDown to the actual pay per view. Money in the Bank, same thing. Friday night pay per view, they were on it. They were lit. They were cooking. They were bringing emotion.
They were
The
cooking.
reactions was there. So I think again, this Wembley news should light a light a spark in the headquarters up in Connecticut to say, hey, we can't be caught slacking out here in these streets, man. We started this. We own this.
I
But
think when it
what?
I think when it
Keep going.
comes to UK markets, though, I think AEW is gonna have a stranglehold on it, just because
Yeah,
Tony Khan has the relations with them because he does own Fulham. He does
Very true.
the soccer team, so I think that eventually, when it comes down to it, Tony Khan's gonna
hey,
be like,
as
"Yeah,
a
we can go to the UK whenever we want," you know, and
as a
WWE is
Chelsea
gonna
fan, I
wait
don't recognize
27
that
years
club as a
again.
proper club anyway.
So,
That's the
does that
I'm a wrap this up, but this is just I want to reiterate that all this competition is good for pro wrestling, and just saw a tweet. I'm gonna read off. It says with AEW Dynamite ranking #1 on cable on Wednesday. This is the third week where you had WWE Raw being #1 on cable on Monday, WWE NXT being #1 on Tuesday, and AEW Dynamite being #1 on Wednesday. So essentially, almost all of the major cable-based wrestling shows are #1. And this is the reason why competition in wrestling is important. It elevates the product,
sure.
elevates the ecosystem, and everybody eats. So but there's that. But we want to know how y'all feel about AEW breaking the all-time attendance record for a wrestling event. And this is crazy. This is huge.